Hi everybody. So today I am streaming and just going to paint some train. And this train I'm working on the specific reference I'm looking at. It's called the Memnon. It's from 1848. It's a very old one of the first steam locomotives in here. Okay. So just using some Ahmed Alduri brushes, as you can see. Just to start out. Okay. Cool thing about steam trains for me is their distinctive shapes and their very basic shapes too. So you have like a cylinder and it's could be a complete cylinder or semicircular cylinder. And so this train that I'm going to be doing a study of the Memnon, I'm probably going to mix a few other trains. I'm using this book from the Smithsonian, all about trains. And I like all the shapes that I'm seeing here. They're very interesting and nice shapes. So many cool things, like they have another cylinder coming out here. And I believe these cylinders, one of them is called a steam dome. It allows the excess. Now, see, I know so little about the workings of a steam train, so you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm going to be highly. There's gonna be a lot of inaccuracies if I'm describing how things work and drawing. But yeah, the steam dome has something to do with the superheated um, steam. It's just very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Going into the past. And so the comic that I'm making is going to be a lot of steampunk stuff. A lot of the comic I'm just keeping a surprise so I don't spoil anything. But it should come out in March. That's the goal. So I'm just going to start with this basic shapes and really nice shapes to look at. And the other cool thing is that there's so many cylinders, there's so many basic shapes and how they relate to each other, the perspective, how the things are getting smaller and bigger, the ellipse degrees, and just making sure everything is makes sense. It's a very cool thing. How things make sense together in perspective, like how these shapes interact with each other in perspective. Like that's the main thing to getting that realism. And if you want to learn more about that, I'm still learning more about it, but I practiced it, and I really love Scott Robertson's book, How to Draw. If you've seen any of my other videos, then you know that I always talk about that book. He is like a legend, and he created the entertainment design degree program for Art Center. So he's like pretty, he's already legendary at that point, and then he became more legendary, and he became even more legendary when he created how to draw and how to render. He's just a very nice person, teacher, shares his knowledge, and extremely good influence, artist influence, and even as a person, he's very nice. He, as far as all my interactions going, just from his books, you could see how he really wants you to learn. So, anyways, I just love his books, and I think you should check him out. Okay, so let me explain something real quick. So as I'm thinking about this, when I was talking about how these things are relate to each other, so take a look at this red line. You always want to cut your shapes up into from their center lines. So if this was the center line, right, um, this is how it would be moving. And I can see that if I bring these shapes outward, see how this cylinder is it's much further forward. If it were to come out the side here, and this was to be the cylinder here, um, it should be lower. That's one thing I see. And I can see that from this quick perspective. And now if I follow this line here, see this lines up. Otherwise this wasn't lining up. This cylinder here. So I'm going to go and correct that. So that's what is important. You have to so Craig Mullins, in one of his things on schoolism, he's just another great influence and awesome artist. So he was talking about how, yeah, it's really great to do these you have to know your perspective and everything and all the stuff that you have to learn from industrial design, drawing and stuff. You have to know those skills, but you also have to have the energy and the expressiveness of your lines, because that's what makes things look more interesting. And that's a really good point, and something that I need to remember. Well, I don't really do so much perspective lines when I'm drawing, but anyways, it's good to know it though. You have to know that. It's not good to. It's essential knowledge, and you think about that stuff as you're painting. So the memnon. So I go back here and I'll think about my next piece of information. Here in the back, how does this back piece connect? This would be the center line, right? So then it would be flowing outward like this. Actually, let me make this higher. The roof appears to be a little higher. And these lines all converge to the same horizon line. That's the goal. They all have to converge to the same horizon line. So this guy, see, has to be much more flat because it's higher. And it's pointing to the same vanishing point on the same horizon line. That's the idea. So if this is the horizon line here, this other guy's has to be here. So I've changed the perspective from my from the reference. So I've totally changed how this looks. So I've changed the angle and everything. So I have to definitely watch. I have to use these perspective grids to help myself. And the only problem is I did on the wrong layer. That's not good. So let me just well, yeah. Well, I could actually. Yeah. Anyways, I'll just redo it. Here, up here, up here. It's going this way. This guy's going this way. This guy's going here. This guy's going here. And now I have a good idea. So how wide is this, for instance? It's gonna come down here, and then this cab, engineers like control cab. I don't know the title. I have the book, but I have to remember all the names now while I'm on the spot. But is wider. You see, it's wider because of this line. Let me lighten this. So that's what I need to use as I'm painting. I have to use these skills from from Scott Robertson's book on basically perspective drawing, and use those skills and make your awesome vehicles and stuff. So these are studies that I'm doing, and I want to make my own version of these awesome trains. What I'm doing now is just pushing it forward, because there's a second. These trains in the front, these wheels in the front are for stability, especially on turns, to prevent trains from derailing. So this, there's a numbering system for trains, these awesome trains. It's, you'd see the numbering system would look like this. It would look like this, like 4, 4, 6, 4, and or 0, 8, 0, 0, 8, 0, or whatever it is. What that's referring to is the front of the cab. This part would be 4, because there's 2 wheels here, and then there's 2 wheels on the other side. That would be 4. Then there's 6. If I draw 3 here, there's 3 on the other side. That's 6. And then underneath, like the cab, there could be more wheels. 2 more, that would be 4, 6, 4. Now, if you got rid of all these wheels and just added here, let's say I just had 4 wheels in the middle, that would be 0, 8, 0. Cool, right? So I didn't know that before I started reading this book. It's a pretty great book. Smithsonian, all about trains. I think you guys would like that too, if you like trains, steam trains and stuff. A lot of people, it seems, they don't really read a lot of books anymore. But books, especially for studying, for your art and you're creating something, are like a secret kind of thing, where everyone's on the internet with, it's kind of stale references, unless you know what questions to ask. Like if you ask the right question, you can find amazing reference. But if you are kind of don't know anything about the subject, how it's going to be hard to ask the right question. So yeah, anyways, that's an important thing. Continue this forward. So now I'm just mixing and matching different parts of trains, because I want to make I want to put together different shapes with the shapes on the memnon. It sounds so cool. It sounds like the bad guy from Thundercats, I think it was. It's not the same, but it sounds like him. All right, so now I got this guy here. Now I can continue a flat piece right here. So this flat piece can be where people usually come and can work on certain parts of the train. That's not in any of my references. They are more, well, actually, yeah, the memnon has a small lip, and then it's broken up here. So it's a thin lip. This lip here is too large. Okay, so now we got this guy here, and it's broken up here. Well, first just do the large shapes. I was going to get into the small details, but you have to first do all your large shapes and then worry about the small ones. So this is a cylinder, right? And on top, you should have a box for a piston valve here, some kind of a boxy shape. Okay, that's what I'm doing right now. So I have this nice dark in the front. I'm following my lighting scheme already that I have here, where it's darker in the front. So I'll keep that lighting scheme as I work on these. So it's really dark here. All right, now you have this little box that has a piston inside. And remember, just bear with me now with some of this terminology, but this is, I'm pretty confident it's correct. There's going to be a piston valve coming out here, and now I'm not confident anymore, but a crossbar and a control arm and all these other cool concepts and things. But if I come back to this perspective, see from the middle here, this valve has to come here. Like the valve is coming out this direction. It's coming out from the middle, right? So the valve, I'm sorry, the control arm, I believe that's called. Now I'm totally lost on the terminology, but this rod, yeah, it's a rod. It's going to come out of the middle of here, and the train wheels are going to have to be all set further inside this way. So that's why this is important. Actually, you should even like normally just draw you should straight up draw your ground lines too, so you know where the wheels are in relative to everything else. So if this is my outside, well, if these are my wheels here, these front wheels should, one second, they should line up with the wheels in the back, these two small wheels. So however, so these wheels are here. However, this cylinder is going to be further out. So it's further out. Should be here. Okay, if you just look at this cylinder, that's where I'm going to put that cylinder. Okay, so here. The more you do these perspective drawings, the more you'll understand these lines. So it's just going to take you a lot of work every day of struggling and failing, and you just keep doing it and don't give up, and then you'll understand the lines better and better. It's just the way it works, you know. Okay, so now I have my basics in, so I can think about this. I can think about my wheels now. If I have this, the wheel should come up here. This cylinder should be dropped. This cylinder is too high. So what I was doing was looking at the Memnon that actually has the cylinder slanted, but that's why it's higher. But these cylinders that I'm mixing it with the other train that I like, the other train that I like is called, let me tell you the name. It's a Thatcher Perkins. It's called the Thatcher Perkins 147. It's a really beautiful train, steam locomotive. Okay, here. Let me match this up here. Actually, let me just delete this completely. I'll just have to redraw it. Because now this is coming in this direction. Here. So this would be here. It would be lower. And then the top of this would be on top. Like that little box would be on top here. Now, what I could do is move this further back because this is looking weird. Let me actually move all of this further back. Because I'm mixing those two trains, things are starting to look awkward. So this would be better. Like this. And it's just the proportions were looking awkward. Because when you mix two different things that are designed differently, they look great separately, but when when I'm mixing them, they're not looking good. So I have to use some design knowledge to try and fix it. And it's all about proportions at this stage. For me, when I'm thinking about fixing these things. Okay, now I got my other wheel on the bottom. I'll keep it. It could even be here. It's like in the Perkins, I think. Okay, that's cool. Now I can continue with these nice larger wheels with the same perspective. Now the cool thing is there's a design principle called big, medium, small, and that design principle comes from like the way everything looks in real life. Like you have an arm that's big, like the top of your arm. Then you have a forearm that's medium, and then you have your hands that are small, like your fingers are small, right? So that kind of design thinking is what you need to think about. It's one of the things that you think about for proportions. So now this all changed. All of this changed. And it dropped. Right? So my perspective lines now are coming here from the middle, from the center of this guy, of this cylinder, the bottom to the right, up, here, here. What I'm doing here is, remember, I'm just looking at, this is called the draw-through method from Scott Robertson, he talks about. And there it is. Now my cylinder is lining up with that rod that goes to the back of this. Okay? And that's good. That's what I want. I want everything to line up. I want the shapes to line up correctly in perspective so that they're consistent, and that consistency gives the illusion of reality, and that illusion of reality is paramount when you're, making a drawing, because a drawing is an illusion. Like all these great artists always said, there was Nathan Fox, and kept driving that point home that it's an illusion on 2D paper, and you're making the illusion of 3D on 2D paper. So this whole thing is an illusion. Drawing is an illusion. Okay. Okay. Let's do this one. These ellipses have their minor axis pointing to the left vanishing point. They have to become thinner, these ellipses, as they go back in perspective. And all these point back to the left vanishing point. And that little thing I made earlier is now, should be higher. Like this lip that I made earlier should be higher. And even this part that I was making, let me make this whole thing higher now. So this area should all be much higher here. Make that follow the same vanishing point, and then I can delete this and just make it up. Here. Make it follow, point to the same vanishing point. Should be around there. There we go. part of my steam train. And now the draw through method means like how do I know how far this goes? Here. Give me a second, it's gotta be right. How do I know how far this goes? Here, so capture this, put it here. This is the center line. From here to here is 1. Basically, this width has to be a little bit less. Is this perfect? No. But when you go in Scott Robertson's book, you'll see how to find the perfect width. It's with the X method. But anyways, I could just compare the width of these two. I'm talking about literally the width. This width to this width. It should be less. And now I know this is a little bit higher, further than that, right? So if I know this is the ending of this semi-circle, then I know that my cap should extend further out here. Okay? And that's what I'm using. That's the logic that I'm using from those, studying the Scott Robertson's book and actually doing those exercises every day for years. Like making a car every day for years. After 1 year, I got better at it. Like I started to understand it, but before that time, I didn't understand it. I wasn't as comfortable. I have a lot more learning to do, but at least I'm more comfortable with this stuff. Okay, maybe extend this further up. Nice. And have that lip part there. Here. I'm just practicing my straight lines. I'm messing up. Okay. Okay, looks like these are looking good. All right. Now what I've done is I've messed up these wheels, or what I could also do is just bring the whole thing. Because we're working digitally, I could just bring this whole thing forward. Instead of, basically I made the proportions too large. So the cab starts towards the middle of these guys. So that's better. All right. So I'm just thinking about proportions there. Where does the cap start? Where does it end? Very cool. Machines. Overhang in the back. Usually it makes it look fast. Okay, so this could be my general lay-in. And I just have to these out proportion wise. Fix that. Okay, so this is my general lay-in. And now let's go and do the cool stuff. Just all those lines, and so I want this to look really deep dark here because it's underneath the cap. And now at this stage, I just want to check everything. Like, does everything look right? Proportion wise, it looks like a toy train, but does it look right? Like, can I get away with how it's looking? You know, yeah, I think I can get away with this stuff. So, and then I'll do the small changes as we go. This is actually my first train that I've drawn. I don't know how. I don't think I've. Yeah, I don't. My first digital painting of a train, or my first painting of a train. So things are not going to look very great. It's all good. You know, you definitely have to be open to making a lot of mistakes. That's like part of the drill, and learning from your failures. So a lot of these videos you'll see me, you know, just learning and messing up and seeing how I could fix stuff after making these horrible mistakes. Well, not horrible. If you learn from something, it's good. It's a lesson. It's not bad. It's all part of the learning process. So they would have this huge, these older trains would be huge, a huge smokestack. This is the name of this part, I believe. It's called a smokestack. It's really cool. Everything about these trains are fantastic. Like, just, I mean, you know, I mean the way they look. Okay, so it's looking more and more like a train. I wanted this to come further out. Follow the perspective lines back. Everything being consistent. Bring this down here. And then I can add all these other cool, interesting, smaller details. But that's like another thing with the big, medium, small. You start big in terms of your design. You start big, and then you go to the medium shapes, big shapes, medium shapes, and then small shapes. And that really helps you keep things in check. Like right now, this is unnecessary because I'm going to like small shapes now. And that's what's going to make you waste time. You don't want to, I mean, now remember, everybody's different, but generally speaking, this is going to make you waste time. Well, for me, it does. Okay. Coolest parts are like coming up, because the coolest parts, most exciting parts are the ones where, like all the rods and how they connect. It's very exciting. I would like to make this even more lower because it's going back in perspective. Oh well, anyways, yeah, it should still be a little bit thinner. Okay. Anyways, all right. So slope was not that defined here in the actual one. I exaggerated that a lot. Okay, and let's continue. It's looking good. It's looking like a toy train, but it's looking like a train, which is exactly what I wanted. From this point, I can stretch things out. If things are looking too blocky, if they're not looking like this is not looking as long as it should, what I could also do is, in terms of proportion, I believe I should keep this, but possibly lower this cab, the top of this cab, because it's looking too high and it's making it look a little bit more cartoony than it should be. Oh, now it's looking like eyes, nose, it's looking like Thomas the Tank Engine. It's all good. I'll fix that. Okay. Are things looking consistent? Yeah, they're looking consistent. Is my wheels looking okay? This has to be thinner. Thinking about the minor axis and how it turns. Okay. So this looks a lot better. It's looking good. Looking better. This is so fun doing this stuff. Yeah, I've been thinking about all this history and everything. Um, like the good parts of the history. There's negative things to everything, right? Like you can use it for good or bad. When the Transcontinental Railroad was operational, they killed off all the bison. The passengers would just be riding in trains shooting bison, and this was part of the government plan to take away the food ability for the Native Americans to eat food, live off the land eating bison, so that they could, take over the Native Americans, starve them out. So the bison were, I believe my understanding is correct, they were reduced to 13 bison after being 100 million bison in America. They were reduced to like 13. This is terrible. It's really bad what human beings do who are not thinking. When we stop thinking about our behavior or just base everything off of our lower nature, off of the superficial, like, oh, I want land, so I'm going to steal it from these people. That's superficial. Because what's more important is you being honest to not the opposite of superficial is actually looking beyond what's superficial. Looking at your kindness, looking at being honest, not being a hypocrite. You wouldn't want anyone to do that to your family. Right? So you don't do that to somebody else. You treat everybody with honor and respect because that's how you want to be treated. And even if you were mistreated in your life, you shouldn't perpetuate that dishonorable treatment to anyone else. Okay, this is looking a lot more interesting. The proportions, notice how I changed the proportions, and then notice how it just started looking much better. See, that's the concept, a very important concept of proportions in design, that you have to have that down. It's absolutely essential, and creates or breaks your drawing. So looking at this, I think it's looking okay. This ellipse, part of this smokestack, is too high because it's very close to the horizon line, so I should fix that, which I just did. Okay. Okay. All these other small stuff now I'm going to start working on, which is very fun and interesting. Okay, so I'm going to add another layer. And now we go with the fun stuff. Oh, by the way, I can make a transparent layer like what I did right there. I'm sorry, it's called lock transparency. And this is Clip Studio Paint, by the way. It's an awesome program. And now I can just paint within the pixels I've already created. That's what I did with that lock transparent layer. Okay. There's also a lot of other cool tricks you could use, but we'll get into some of those later. Let me throw some darks in the back here. Some cool darks. Yeah. Man. Awesome. Shoot, so cool. Okay. So if I look at this and I look at other drawing, I have to find some errors to fix them before I get into the medium and small shapes. So what I want to do now is I would like to fix some things. Okay. So I get some shapes here. Now, when I think about my perspective, I'll just write perspective here. Well, I'm trying to find the center line, and I'm trying to draw it right. I know I could just do this, but I'd rather just work on my hand skills, hand-eye coordination, and my motor skills to make a straight line. I think it should be here. Okay, that looks fine. All right, so this is my center here, right? So this should be the center coming up here. These, for instance, these should all come back towards the vanishing point. So I'll use this as a guide and this as a guide, and this should be somewhat in the middle. And so this looks like this is the middle of this, where this wheel is, you know? That's too high. So that's too wide. This line was not correct. This dot should be here. And yeah, it really does make a huge difference. These small things make a huge difference. Like just moving the dot over a little bit, it makes a huge difference. That's not looking good. That's not looking good. That's looking okay. Okay, now I'm just messing up. Okay, let's keep it like that. If I here, I'm just trying to see where the midline is of these things. Now, this looks correct. Where is this wheel relative to this cab? So, you know, I have to find these points in 3D space. This will ensure that what I'm doing is legitimate, that like it's correct. Because I'm trying to add another shape in the back. And if this is not legitimate, guess what? Everything else is going to fail. Like everything else won't look right. So I have to follow this line back to this horizon line. This comes this way. Here. 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 Oh, okay, that's what the problem was. This should be a little bit higher. I think a little bit higher. These small errors cause big problems later when you're doing a perspective drawing. I should have just like drawn lines like this in the beginning. This would have saved me a bunch of problems. Well, I'll do that. I'll do that next time. Okay. Oh, and this wasn't even my perspective layer. Anyway, just merge them now. There's my new layer. Now I have this perspective layer, and I have this part coming here. This is the center line, comes up, and then this is the center line down here. So this is where this ends. Okay, I know where the cab ends now. That's why I did all that work. Then I have some space, and then you go to the tinder box. Tinder box, however you call this. This tinder box is a little bit lower in terms of the height here. It's also where the brakes are. So you have this cool little air vacuum hose. It could be a vacuum brake or an air brake, but back then I believe it was air brakes. So then it's going to be a cool hose that comes and connects it. But that's unnecessary for me to draw that hose. So I just have to do my basic box shape for this tinder box. Okay, look at how cool this is looking. Now it's starting to look like more and more of a train. An awesome train that is from back in the day. Oh, there's a lot of other history with trains that's fantastic and some that's not so fantastic. Like the mistreatment of the Chinese workers on the Transcontinental Railroad by the, what was the railroad company? Central Pacific? No, it was, I forgot, the West, I forgot the name of it. Not so good history, but that's why we try and learn from history so we don't repeat it, right? If you notice thoughts like in your own self about you being better than someone else, then just look back in history and see what those thoughts have produced. They've produced a lot of terrible behavior. So if you find yourself having those same thoughts, you have to analyze, why do I have those thoughts? Are these thoughts being programmed into me by the media that I'm looking at? Which just watching TV really does, and movies really does that. So it's kind of they're slick in their subconscious kind of programming, where you start to maybe believe that you're better than someone else. It happens in school and other things, like erasing other groups of people's history and then claiming credit for the things that they have done, for example. So what you get in school, and we're just totally erasing people's history and just talking about one other group's history gives you a sense of, definitely make people think they're better than someone else. But that idea of being better is as a ploy, and it's really used to harm. The result of those ideas is just harm. Manipulation by the system at large that's promoting those ideas, and then harm. After you're manipulated, you harm other people. It's just, you can look through history if you want to see that happening. So what we would do is just watch ourselves, watch our own thoughts, and see if that's happening in our mind. There's something greater than the superficial, and that's honesty. Honesty is greater than the superficial. It's a spiritual thing, in a way. Okay, so what I'm doing here is, you see how these wheels, they should be a lot. The ellipses should be a lot thinner. And the reason for that is because as an ellipse, if you have some toilet paper rolls, just look at them, line them up, and look at the ones that are further away. Those ellipses, an ellipse is a circle in perspective. So those ellipses are going to get thinner and thinner as they go further away. That's what's happening here. And by the way, when we talk about honesty, man, that applies to everybody. So it doesn't matter what group it is. It doesn't matter. Like right now, China's doing some terrible genocide against the Uyghur Turks. But America is doing a lot of terrible genocide against the Native Americans and terrible things to the Africans that were stolen here. And then the Asians that were brought to work on the Transcontinental Railroad. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, you speak the truth, even if it's against your own family or your own nation or your own self. It's very important. Speak the truth, even if it's against yourself, especially yourself, because that's how you grow. It might be hard in the short term, immediate sense, like, oh, you're probably gonna run into some difficulty, but in the long term, telling the truth always is best. And you'll learn lessons that you would not have gained otherwise, and you would gain things that you would not have gained otherwise by being deceitful. But the things you lose by being deceitful, you can be, it's very hard. Bad things. You don't want to lose yourself. That's not a good thing. Okay. See? This is nice. So I got the Tinder box here. Tinder box to Tinder. I'm just using the wrong terms right now. All this stuff is really beautiful stuff. It's like the World War II planes and stuff. It's just so gorgeous. But then they're designed to kill people, but so gorgeous. So human ingenuity put to violent ends, but just still there. Just look at them and get enamored by the design, the making metal planes fly back then. It was considered that only wooden planes would fly because they are less dense. Metal can't fly. Just all this cool stuff. Still waiting for flying trains. That's going to be awesome. Like Back to the Future. Maybe I'll add some of that stuff. I don't want to spoil my comic, but it's gonna be some stuff like that. It's not maybe. It's like, if you knew my art station, if you saw it before, I spoiled the whole comic, but I removed those posts. But it's like a lot of cool things gonna happen. So these rails are too far. So I gotta fix that. Let me just redo this. These wheels. Should be around here. Okay, cool. This is looking okay. I'm having too much fun here because this is really awesome. I can go in the back of this and just throw some dark shapes down here. A dark tone, sorry. Too. All right. So this is my basic shapes now for my train. From here, we can move forward and do some other cool things. And now do the smaller shapes. Because this is generally my general blocking basically of everything, right? The large shapes and stuff like that. And I'm going back and do some dark shapes here too. If I wanted this to be perfect, I could do I could do the draw through. I could perfectly get where these openings would be for different windows and stuff. But I'm not going to do that. Just drop some of these lines here. Drop a window here. Like that. Okay. Okay, cool. Now you can see that here still looks like a toy train, which is fine, because this is the big part of the steps that you're taking, like the big shapes. After this, you do the small shapes, and you start to make this really like awesome, you know. So let me make another area, like another side that layer. Let me call these like medium shapes, okay? And with these medium shapes, also this could be my shadow layer here. Let me just throw some more shadow down here because this whole train would be in shadow, like casting a shadow on the bottom, right? It wouldn't be white. Let's imagine like just straight top-down lighting. Okay. I don't know why this looks red. Oh, it's because of the perspective layer. Yeah. Okay. So at this point, let me start with the medium and go forward. Okay. So like some of these shapes here on the left, this is open. Getting this here like that. 147 Thatcher Perkins. Nice. Beautiful train. Oh, the other thing is that I'm changing the lighting from my reference too. Not only am I mixing two trains together, but I'm changing the lighting. So this way I could like just practice changing stuff up. And I'm not just like, like blindly copying something. That's not a good thing to do when you're studying. Because the study's purpose is for you to gain knowledge. It's not for you to like just blindly copy something. Because blindly copying something, you're not going to learn as much. You definitely could learn if you're asking yourself questions like why? Why is this happening? Sorry about that. But when you ask yourself the questions why things are happening, that's studying. That's not blindly studying something. However, when you just blindly study something, you're just drawing it without using your mind. So then you're gonna mess up. Okay. Let me, I'm just gonna mute for a second. Yeah. All right. So Okay. Hopefully you're enjoying this so far. And so now I'm on medium shapes. And the medium shapes are very interesting. Maybe it'll be like an overhang, like I see in the reference for the Memnon. A little overhang right here. So it'll be darker. Maybe on the other side, these areas would be a little darker because they're inside the shape of the tender. The tender, and now, oh man, the coolest things are here. Like, what am I doing? This is the coolest part right here. Here. Let me increase the tones, the tone, and have a small piston valve. That's what this is called. And it's coming out here in this direction, following the perspective lines up. Okay, then you have a larger valve. Okay, I have two valves here. 1, 2. Hold on, I have to follow my 1, 2 here. Okay, now we have a coupling kind of system here. This way here. Here. Now we have it's called a crossbar, crosshead. Add another facet, plane to these. Okay. Now I can. This stops well before here. Into the top. Okay. Let's take a look.
Sorry. Want to turn around?
Here we go.
Look what she's doing. I can't be watching her. I was watching. When are you going to be done?
So let's continue here. Large shapes. And thinking about these crossbars. Let me put it here so that it's here. Connects this way on an angle first. Okay. Just trying to make sense of how everything looks. All right. There are portions that connect here. So I think this next bar that I'm going to draw, it's called the control bar right here. Control arm? Control arm? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, you can't take most of what I'm saying in this as correct because I'm still learning the terms. But you're not going to be perfect, right? If you're waiting to be perfect to do something, then you'll be waiting a long time. The fact that I'm doing this is helping me learn. So you should do the same when you're learning. Like just get out and do it. You'll get better with time as you do it, you know. But if you don't do anything at all and wait to be perfect, that's not gonna really that it's not really gonna come like unless you've been doing it for many years and stuff. It's just not. You learn by doing. You know, that's the best way to go about it because you'll still get that level of kind of what you're saying perfect, but you'll also have a lot of other huge benefits. Like you would have your comic that's done, you know, you would have like a fan base perhaps. You would meet more people, you know, you'd make a lot more friends and stuff rather than just staying alone, being home, trying to get perfect. That's two different things. Okay. So what I'm doing here is just I want to make these larger, but only certain parts of this I want to make larger. So I used my selection tool to make certain things larger and other things not as large. Because just looking at this, some of the coolest parts of the train are these mechanisms. So when those they're so thin, it just doesn't look right. In fact, why don't I just leave it like this? There's another trick I could use. Watch this. I could control click my mount, click this area, and then when I go to select, I can expand the selected area. Let's say I want to expand it by, yeah, let's say it like by 7 first and see how big that gets. So now I've expanded the area by 7, so I can now draw on top, you see, and make it larger. Make this entire area a little bit larger. Okay, make everything larger. So now they're more significant. These rails, these bars and stuff, are more significant now. And that's what I wanted. I wanted them to be more significant. And I can, just paint on top anyways. If those are just some tricks, but if you want to just paint it over, you also get a great effect. Now I have some thicker arm bars and control arms and stuff. Arm bar. Pretty sure that's a martial arts term. Okay, cool. It's really looking good to me, anyways. I know it's not perfect or correct, like, scientifically, mechanical engineering wise, but this is looking fun. It's a really fun thing to do. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, so that's like part, basically, I should have been my small area when I'm working on my small parts, but let me go back to medium and continue working this out. These are my, can you say, control arms and rods. Okay, just notice that this is not looking, it's taking away from my cylindrical shape. See? Just by doing that, it helps the brain interpret this as what it is. A cylinder. Here it's not really a cylinder. Here it's more a square. Okay, cool. Okay, those are my control arms. Look at how nice it looks when you get that. Okay, all right, let's continue here. And fix a few things in the back. So let's keep doing this. Now keep working out the shapes and the tones as how they look for this lighting scenario. how does this shape interact with this cylindrical shape? Very important. Something Q. So I took a class with Q Feng on in Brainstorm. He is a senior concept artist at Overwatch. So he said you really want to look at how two shapes interact. How one shape interacts and melds or merges into the other. And that's really part of good design when you make that interesting. Okay. Now I'm just trying to get this done right.
Trouble, Mom. And you drink all my smoothie. My cup is over there.
Okay, these are all medium shapes. Just trying to get this done.
Mom, what should be my judge? I can't use the water. Now my judge. Cozy. Find the other one.
Okay.
The other one. The other one. I want the other one.
Okay, sorry about that. Sounds in the back.
The rainbow.
Baby's just getting,
I told you
just complaining about stuff. Can't help it. Can't help when that happens. So those are some of my shapes here. My medium shapes. Let me darken some of these shapes here. Let's do some small shapes now. Do small and try and add some other elements that are really cool. So let's take this, add a bell that they had. A lot of these trains would have these nice bells. You'd hear them ringing. I don't know, I just imagine the bells when at a railroad crossing when a train's coming. Okay. Then have a cool little bell inside. Okay. So 1 second. It's my timer. I'm trying to finish this thing. These are all small shapes. And the small shapes, something I did that's not good is I shouldn't be afraid to make these shapes get overlapped. You know? Like just let it overlap this shape, for instance. So don't be afraid don't make everything perfectly separated. It should overlap if it needs to. So I have this on a separate layer so I can just move it around. So I'll just move it here, let it overlap this area of the dome. I think the steam dome, I think that's called. Okay. Keep adding some stuff. Okay, now let's continue to add these cool shapes. Small shapes. Here. Here. Delineate this. What's going on here? Oh, it's on the bottom. Put the small on top. Here. So one layer was on another, so it's stopping me from showing this. Small shapes.
Mom, this is a bad day. This is a sad day. I don't like this sad day.
Small shapes.
Because you put me down. That's why it's sad day. That's why I don't want it.
Put this in here. Cylinder here. Top. That. Bottom here. Cast shadow. Try to think about that stuff. It's not really. Okay, small shapes, pipes. Maybe there could be some. Yes, some pipes coming here. Here. From here this way up. Here. Same in this direction here. Oh, this goes to the side. So this continues all the way up to the side here. This rod. Okay. All right. Small shapes. So I'm just thinking small shapes. Thatcher Perkins. Keep thinking small shapes and make this thing look right. Just keep improving it slowly. Okay, come on, small shapes. It's starting to come together. Thinking small. Okay. Okay. Of course, you gotta have the small shapes. The coolest parts are the bolts. Showed up. See what happens here as I continue. So now I'm basically done. I've passed my timer. That's my timer to finish, and I can't really go any further. So I hope you like this one. Hope it was a lot of fun to watch these things just being painted. It was really fun for me to paint this. It's and I recommend it you guys too. Just if you're working on a comic or not. I mean, there's so much history and cool things to draw and study from. And I hope that you do the same. And maybe pick up something and start drawing it, painting and stuff. All right, well that's for me for today. This is my name, my handle, and everything is Jam at Jam Tron Art. And before I go, I always just do some layer corrections. But I really need to work on these control arms. They're a little bit too bright. So let me just do a tonal correction. Brightness, contrast, and maybe just drop it a little bit like that. All right, now on the whole thing, I can just add this layer correction. It's called levels. And just, and you know, I should be thinking about why this would work or not. Like why things are working and not working. Like why levels are making it look better. So next time I won't need levels. But it's just grouping the darks and it's doing a good job with that. And I would prefer grouping it a little bit more like this. This looks cooler, a lot nicer. And do one more pass with these dark colors. Get my big guy over here. And there we go. This is my steam train practice. A lot of errors here, but it was so fun to do. I hope that you guys like yeah, do your own and have fun drawing and painting and stuff. Just put some coal in the bag. All right. Have a good day. Bye.